It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. I really only have to say 2 words to make you watch this show. Amy and Brianna. Amy Webb and Brianna Wu, our guests. This is an early recording because of the 4th of July, but we have lots to talk about. Amazon's getting a new CEO. We'll take a look back at the career of Jeff Bezos. A ransomware attack hitting hundreds of companies thanks to another supply chain failure. A Windows 0 day. And a whole lot more. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 830, recorded Saturday, July 3rd, 2021. Meet us in Singapore. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, where we cover the week's tech news. A little bit different today because Sunday is the 4th of July. I looked back. Lisa told me a couple of weeks ago, oh, no show on Sunday. I said, what do you mean? She says the 4th of July. I said, we don't miss a show. What are you talking about? And she said, oh, we always miss it on the 4th. I said, what do you mean? So I looked back. There has only, in the 15 years of this show, there's only been one other time the show was on the 4th of July. And we did the show on the 3rd. So I thought, okay, there's a precedent. So we're doing this today on Saturday the 3rd. Let's hope another thing, no big news breaks in the next 24 hours. And of course, I'm thrilled because we were able to get 2 wonderful people to share their Saturday evenings with us. First, Brianna Wu. Good to see you, from the executive director of the Rebellion Pack. Brianna Wu on Twitter. Hi, Brianna.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You look so good. What did you do? Are you doing Noom? Are you doing anything?
I am. So last year I had reconstructive knee surgery. They actually drilled 6 holes through my patella. I could not walk for 3 months, and I just put on a ton of weight after that. And, I did Noom to start losing it. And as long as I figured it out, it's like just write down what you eat, keep the calories lower, and I just decided to keep going until I was back to my high school weight. Yeah, thank you.
High school weight. Wow.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive. Lisa's done the same thing. She's on Noom. We're both on Noom. She's done a little better than I have, but she's.
Do you find it's a little like the lessons? I find the longer you do the lessons, they get a little.
I stopped because they're cutesy. Yeah. I feel like they're being written for young women or something.
I agree.
They're not aimed at. They should have a setting that says, leave out the cute, just give me the facts, because the information is great. It's a CBT. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. They help you understand why you overeat and how you're overeating and become aware, mindful of the whole thing. And it works, but it's a little cutesy. I agree.
That was very much my experience, because it's like, even like when you've been doing it 3 months, the lessons start being like, and you can do it. We believe in you. Here are lessons.
No, I'm doing it. It's fine.
Here.
I'm here. I'm doing it.
I'm good. Tell me about nutrition.
No, I stopped doing the lessons. I just continue to record, and it works. It really is effective. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. You look great. I'm so glad it's working for you. That's great.
You do too, Leo.
You didn't have to say that. It's okay. That was one of those after the fact. You look great too. Yeah. No. That's okay. Hey, it's great also to welcome Amy Webb. We love Amy Webb, and she is celebrating tonight. CEO of Future Today Institute at Amy Webb, and she's going on her first vacation. When's the last vacation you went on?
First of all, I believe in vacations, so what I'm about to say does not mean that I don't think vacations are important.
This is not the future. This is not the future we'll be living in.
No. Just between books and family and work, I think this is the first vacation where I don't have to give a speech. Or I should say I don't have the privilege of giving a speech or meeting with a client.
Yes.
I think in about 10 years.
Oh my God!
Wow.
See, I burned out. And because of COVID, we haven't gone on any vacations.
We take little I get. But pre-COVID, I was traveling all over the world, so we would sort of, we didn't really do a true vacation because we were always in a new city or a new country, and we just tack on a few days. So this is the first time that I'm going to be just no work.
You're not bringing any digital equipment with you.
I was going to bring a Kindle, And I decided I really hate reading on a Kindle.
Yeah.
So no, I've got an iPad because I want to.
Right.
I'm a big Rush and prog rock fan, and there's a concert I decided I wanted to watch at some point on the plane. I know, whatever. Don't make fun.
Oh, I love Rush. In fact, I use them as the poster child for why not all Apple spatial audio mixes are good and why Apple's own Bluetooth headphones are terrible. Tom Sawyer, which is an amazing song, given there's only 3 people playing it.
You need the beginning. You need the sound to be right. Totally.
And they offer it as as one of their poster children for their new spatial mix. And it sounds horrible on the AirPod Pro and the AirPod Pro Max, but if you get good headphones, it sounds fine.
I've got a pair of Bose headphones.
There you go. It'll sound better.
So we'll see.
Bluetooth. I think Bluetooth is not good for music, to be honest with you.
No, it's not. Did you know? Sidebar. There's a new documentary that Dave Grohl has out on one of the networks, maybe Netflix or maybe Amazon. It's called Cradle to Stage. Have you seen this yet? So Getty. So basically, it's like Dave Grohl's mom had a book come out, whatever. So, it's not the greatest show. There's a lot of problems, but he does interview musicians and their moms. So there's an episode with Geddy Lee, and she tells this story about surviving the Holocaust and what the whole family went through. And then there's a really weird transition to Dave Grohl's daughter wanting to become a musician, but it's pretty amazing. And Getty is super, super interesting. There's also an episode highly recommended featuring Tom Morello and his mother. Tom Morello's mom is a badass. Oh my God, that woman is so cool. So totally off topic, but highly recommended if you're looking for something to do on July 3rd. If you're listening today, which is a holiday, it's National Fried Clam Day. So there you go.
My favorite. There is a wonderful Rush documentary on Netflix, if you haven't seen it, Time Stands Still, that I really enjoyed.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'll download it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that you should watch on the plane.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Wow, we haven't done any tech news, and then we're 6 minutes in. This is my kind of show. I love it. Well, we're going to, because one of the stories, probably our biggest story of the week, is that this is the week that Jeff Bezos will step down as CEO of Amazon. And, Andy Jassy will be taking over. He's been a long-time Amazon guy. But the question in a lot of people's minds is Andy going to bring to the table what Jeff Bezos, unquestionably what Jeff Bezos brought? The guy who wrote The Everything Store and has a new book about Jeff Bezos did an opinion piece in today's New York Times. He calls it the Jeff Bezos Paradox. We're talking about Brad Stone. And he says, let me see if I could find he says, I've written 2 books, including the one you just read, which I'm going to ask you about, chronicling Amazon's history. I've come to view both the company's never-ending expansion and declining reputation as byproducts of Mr. Bezos' personality, his towering intellect, along with a notable deficit of empathy and fear of stasis. So those are the 3 he says, and this is a guy who studied Bezos more than almost anybody, his 3 kind of pillars of his personality and of the company as a result. Brilliant guy. Nobody questions Amazon's strategy has been perfect, almost perfect, except for the Fire Phone. But also, as it's becoming the most successful company, one of the most successful companies in history, it's also getting a lot of heat for its poor treatment of its employees. That's, he says, because of Bezos' own lack of empathy and of maybe perhaps moving too fast or trying too many things. And that's Jeff's fear of stasis. He wants it always day one is his saying. He never wants it to be the second day of a company. It's always the first day of the company. He says day 2 is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death, which seems a little, that's Jeff talking, not Brad. That's a little extreme. What do you think? Is that? Let me start with you, Brianna, and then because Amy's read the book that we have yet to read, which is the new Amazon. What do you think of Jeff Bezos as the head of Amazon?
It's so hard because the political part of me is kind of appalled by a lot of the way he treats workers, right? I saw this firsthand running for Congress. The tech part of me is really in admiration of the way he keeps pushing the boundaries on what his company can be. Look at Amazon Prime Video. When that came out, I thought that was stupid. I would bet you probably did too. And now all these years later, it's like, Apple is doing this. All these different things are doing a video service. Look at his plays in the video game industry. Every single game Amazon has put out has been a financial disaster. They've dumped tons of money into it. It's gone nowhere. But that refusal to just sit still and stagnate. I really, really respect that. So I think he's very much a man of contradictions. And I think that empathy quote, it really comes through in looking at the history of the company.
Yeah. There'll be big shoes to fill, though, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that's kind of interesting as Jeff Bezos steps away from Amazon, Thursday, the company changed its list of corporate values and added some things that maybe Jeff Bezos would not have wanted to add. The new leadership principles, this is from an article in Bloomberg by Matt Day a couple of days ago. The new leadership principles these are two new ones, strive to be the Earth's best employer, and success and scale bring broad responsibility. These two new principles require employees to take into account the well-being of their coworkers and society beyond the company's walls when making decisions, which is, I think, kind of interesting. As Jeff Bezos steps down, suddenly they get some empathy. So you've read Amazon Unbound. Amy, you were saying it's really good.
So I have many, many thoughts. First of all, I've read excerpts of it. And the excerpts, so Brad,
you're taking it on vacation with you to read.
So Brad is such a good writer.
He really is.
He's phenomenal.
His first book, The Everything Store, was by the way, Bezos and his wife hated it. His ex-wife hated it.
Yeah.
In fact, Mackenzie famously put a very nasty review on Amazon's site of The Everything Store. But really, the nastiness came down to it was too accurate.
Yeah. Brad's a really good reporter.
Yeah.
He's a very good character-driven. I mean, he's a very, very good writer. I've read excerpts of the book and I couldn't put it down. So I decided this is my treat for myself for vacation. But
good choice.
Let me say just a couple of things. So going back to what you said initially and what Brad says in the op-ed, that Bezos is kind of the intersecting vector of intellect, lack of empathy, and fear of stasis is Bezos. But, I think you could say that of many, many, many CEOs. So what I do for a living, I'm a futurist, but I'm a management consultant, and my company advises the CEOs and the C-suites of enormous corporations all over the world and governments and our elected people. I would say that those three criteria also describe lots of CEOs that I work with. And a lot of them fear death. A lot of them feel like they're running out of time.
Oh, interesting. Do you think that's a trait that makes you a good CEO?
I don't know that it's mandatory, but I would say that I do see this among lots of the executives that we work with. There's also another, what separates Jeff from everybody else, I think, is the drive. And he invests himself in thinking about the longer term future. And that is difficult to do because it takes courage to confront the future, to imagine yourself and your organization in the biggest possible terms in the future. And, the new principles I think are pretty interesting, but for totally different reasons. The word Earth is in there. Did you notice that, Leo? It wasn't in previous ones, but they're now talking about the planet.
Earth. That's about climate change, you think? Or
no, I think that's about. I think that's an overt announcement of global expansion and pretty soon intergalactic. Maybe not intergalactic, but expansion off planet is what I think is happening. And one just last quick thing.
Well, Jeff, because he runs Blue Origin, is very much about space exploration, right?
Right, and the space economy. There's so we FTI produces an annual tech trends report, and we did in 2021. This year's it was 12 volumes. Anyways, this is the volume that just deals with technology trends having to do with health, medical, and wearables. Amazon is doing so much in this space that we had to write an entire section about all of the different things that Amazon's doing. And my point is, I think what makes the company so interesting and Jeff such a profound leader is that they are completely disrupting so many different industries, from pharmaceuticals to logistics to, you name it. And another way, listen, some of the human rights, the employee complaints, are certainly important and should be looked at. I think we also need to acknowledge that humanity is in this period of transition and also transmission, but transition. We're moving from people doing things to people and machines doing things together, to machines and cognitive systems making decisions and telling the humans what to do. And pretty soon the humans won't be in the loop anymore. And collaborative robots will do a lot of that manual work for us. So,
and we may look back and say Amazon started that all with Alexa.
I mean, that's certainly part of it.
Yeah.
But the other piece of this is all of the warehouse technology. Amazon's AWS.
Is it highly automated, the warehouses?
Oh yeah. Yes, but but what is automated? It's the decisions that otherwise would have been made by people.
The humans are
what
just
to pick when.
labor.
The humans are the robots.
They're
That's
the
right.
robots.
That's right.
Wow, that's a weird flip-flop. By the way, I have all 300 volumes of this. I highly recommend the digital download, which is free to everybody at the Future Today Institute website, because I can barely lift this. I asked Ant,
it's pretty big.
I asked Ant to run and get it, and he kind of hands it to me with his pinky. And
Look at that.
And I went, but this is actually a great read. Really fantastic. So well done.
Thank you.
On that. And it was nice of you to divide it into chunks, because I don't think I could lift the whole thing. So let me read you. This is the one of the new principles that Amazon has now adopted as of Thursday. Quote, "We are big. We impact the world, and we are far from perfect. We must be humble and thoughtful about even the secondary effects of our actions. Our local communities, planet, and future generations need us to be better every day." That's actually lofty. That's a great goal. And it's an acknowledgement of how impactful Amazon is, not just on the U.S. economy, but on the global economy.
I guess I would find that more credible if they hadn't just invested a ton of resources to squash a unionizing effort in a way that I and I think a lot of other people found to be really, really concerning. I was thinking about what you were saying, Amy, and I think this is so interesting. And I don't mean to get political here, but in the last few years, I think a lot of us have thought about the trait of narcissism and a lack of empathy in our leaders. And I think we've seen the effects of that in high government positions. If Bezos kind of has that as well, and you're telling me that's something that is a common occurrence, that kind of lack of empathy in the highest levels of leadership, it makes sense to me. Like, imagine everything you could get done if you didn't have to care about people or the effects in your wake. If that's something that's kind of congenital to these higher level positions, I mean, it explains a lot, but I think it makes me pessimistic that these lofty goals that they're going to put in a marketing slogan might result in not squashing unions.
Is it, Amy, the case that companies' founders tend to be more like that, and that at some point in the natural evolution of a business, the founders are replaced by people who are a little bit, I don't know, more sedate?
Mm-hmm. So I just back on what Brianna said. So I would say narcissism and lack of empathy are adjacently or orthogonally related, maybe, but not necessarily the same thing. Mm-hmm. If you stop and think about, and sort of reverse engineer what it takes to build a company like Amazon or Tesla or, Apple, pick any company you want that's, Facebook. You have to be willing to make great sacrifices, whether that's in your family or the relationships that you might have. And if you reverse engineer, what would it take to make that kind of a sacrifice, right? You would have to feel a little less than other people. And so I think probably some of this must be qualities that you're born with. I think a lack of empathy would be probably difficult to cultivate, especially if the main goal of that was to, have an amazing company.
Isn't that sociopathy ultimately at its most extreme? Isn't that become, this?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not qualified in any way to talk about people's personalities. I can just tell you what I've observed based on all of the work that I do with these executives. Most of the people that I work with at the highest levels of business and government, I would say, have what you would expect, which is just unparalleled, just unbridled drive. Which again, you could try to cultivate that, but you either you have it or you don't. They have a fear of stasis, and many of them seem, when we've discussed it, it's a fear of not having enough time to get accomplished what they want to accomplish. Obviously, they're very, very smart. And then there's this other piece where they're willing to take risks or make decisions that people who have just lots of empathy may not do.
This is going to verge into the realm of armchair psychology.
Yeah,
but Forbes had a piece a few years ago called The Psychopathic CEO. And they quote a study that said, in the average population, about 1% of people are clinically psychopathic. Roughly 4 to as high as 12% of CEOs are psychopathic. 15% is the rate found in prisons. So there is some evidence that CEOs tend to have those traits, particularly lack of empathy and drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it makes sense just in the generalized point of view. Go ahead, Brianna.
No, I was just going to say, all three of us here have existed in the startup world, right? And I think a commonality I see with people working in startups is you want to put your values into action, right? Like you see something in the world and it doesn't exist and you want to create a company your way. Leo, here at Twit, it's hard for me not to notice I've never seen a show you've done that you don't have an underrepresented group on. I imagine that's something you sit down and you're like,
we do
these
that on
are
purpose.
Our values. Yeah. That's your values, right? For me, the way I run Rebellion, there are certain values that I stick to. Same thing with my games.
Credit to Lisa on that, by the way, because I am I'm a psychopath. So
no, but my point is, I don't think you can necessarily link maybe at the highest levels, it gives you a certain edge because there is a human cost, especially on the labor side. But I can see that being a superpower where if you just don't have to care about your workforce, if you just care about market share at all cost, I can see that being the factor that puts you over the top and makes you win.
Yeah, absolutely.
If anybody really wants to take a deep dive down this rabbit hole at some point, John Ronson, who's another really great writer,
the psychopath test.
Yeah, he wrote the psychopath test. It's terrific.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. But again, my question isn't that something that you see in early stages of companies, especially startups, that doesn't wear well in the long term? And maybe Andy Jassy coming along, this is at kind of a natural transition for Amazon from the founder, the kind of driven founder, to something more humane.
But Andy was employee, number 6 or something?
Yeah, he's early days guy.
Right. So, in most cases, there's a number 2 who's been there the entire time, who is acting as a translator, or the connective tissue, who understands the founder, but also understands humans. I think we see that at lots and lots of companies, again, from Tesla to, Sheryl Sandberg at Facebook. I think we see that behind every incredibly successful CEO is like an incredibly perceptive, is a person who knows how to connect that CEO and their vision to the rest of the company.
Jassy, who will be the CEO on Monday, there's a piece about him in the Wall Street Journal in which they say people who work closely with him describe him as soft-spoken and approachable. Some say he's more even-keeled with employees than Mr. Bezos. He's detailed, focused, which CEOs, startup CEOs are often not so detailed focused. In fact, that's one of the complaints that Brad Stone mentions in his op-ed piece is that Bezos is always looking at the next thing. And so as a result, the last thing kind of loses focus.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Anymore. And he says this is why maybe the Amazon store has become riddled with fraudulent reviews, fraudulent sellers, because it's not.
But I would argue that's not, this is the problem. There's the chief executive officer, which is what CEO stands for. And then there's the visionary person who's both the leader and the founder and the lead idea generator. Sometimes if you don't have both skills, and at some point when you go beyond that vision, then you need to have that chief executive in there. And the chief executive is an executive manager.
Yeah, we look at Apple, who replaced Steve Jobs, who was kind of the quintessential psychopath.
Yeah.
With Tim Cook, who was the quintessential operations guy.
That's right. So I think maybe for anybody who's listening, the insight and the takeaway here is, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're somebody who's a founder, there's probably lessons to learn from both groups of people, from the psychopaths and from the operators.
Yeah, you need both.
Yeah.
And Jobs was smart enough, and it looks like Jeff was smart enough to have a number two or somebody around.
To cultivate that person.
Knowing that he's going to need an operations guy now and someday perhaps to run it. What is your experience, Amy, with the boards? Because Jeff Bezos will continue as chairman of the board.
Yeah.
How much operational influence will he have?
So again, a lot of these boards of directors, they start to get nervous. Well, they get nervous for all kinds of reasons. I mean, at some point, they didn't like Steve Jobs so much. They got nervous about what he was doing. They fired him.
Yeah. Right.
So, ultimately it's the vision. I think there's some belief that the vision can't be replicated. I mean, it comes from that person. And when that person leaves, some of that vision goes away. You need the vision, and that's hard to replicate. Finding an extraordinary CEO who is an operator, who's a manager, who can work with that visionary and eventually take over for them. There are many, many more talented CEOs than there are true visionaries. So I think boards, my hunch is Bezos isn't going anywhere. He's just not doing the day-to-day.
Well, he is going to space.
Management. He's going, yeah.
Which, by the way, if he were CEO and I were the board member, I would have said, under no circumstances are you allowed to strap a giant explosive to your ass and fire yourself into space. That's just not going to happen.
Is Branson still the CEO of Virgin?
Oh, that's interesting. I doubt he is hands-on day-to-day.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the funny thing. Bezos announced he's going into space, the 22nd. And so Branson says, I'm going into space the 11th. That is, by the way, another quintessential hallmark of these high-end CEOs is their competitiveness.
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell cares who's the first to go into space, or who has, very famously, the tallest yacht? Larry Ellison built a yacht with his mast just a little bit taller than the number two guy. In fact, so much taller that he couldn't get it under the Bay Bridge anymore. But he wanted the tallest yacht.
Yeah.
That's just dumb.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say,
go ahead,
no, thanks. I just wanted to say we had this discussion a lot when, Steve Jobs sadly passed away. And, obviously Tim Cook took over, and there were a lot of naysayers saying, this is the end of Apple. Tim Cook obviously had much more of a background in logistics, and there were people asking if he was going to have the vision to keep the company going. Apple did several things. They instituted Apple University to kind of codify codify the lessons that they had learned under the Steve Jobs era to kind of facilitate that kind of visionary leadership. And what I hear from a lot of my engineer friends that work at Apple is it actually improved in the post-job years, because this kind of tolerance for a-holes, it was just a lot. I hope I could say that, Leo, but it was not as tolerated on these teams. Great.
It's the perfect word.
I think in a lot of ways, Apple ended up getting bigger and better. And I think Amazon, more than Apple, is less dependent on product hits and more on a supply chain, like going into further and further markets. So I think that is a more, I don't want to diminish this, but it's a more fungible skill. It's less dependent on like a Steve Jobs type, I think.
I would disagree on that, because Amazon isn't a product-based company, whereas Apple is very much tied. Apple is its products. Mm-hmm. Amazon is very much not its traditional products. Amazon is Amazon is the invisible infrastructure now powering enormous parts of everyday life that range from huge parts of our economy to logistics, to web hosting, to literally to pharmaceuticals and medicine, and I could go on and on. So I don't know. I would be curious to know what's actually going on over there. It's hard not to also look at the changeover at Amazon in the same, while also looking at some personal decisions that Bezos made, kind of sort of around the same time. We have these enormous tech companies.
You think he's having a midlife crisis? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that, Leo. You said that just now, but
it might be. He started lifting weights.
What happens when boys have their midlife crises? Yeah. They buy the fast car and they try to drive it real fast. Yeah. And Jeff is driving real fast to space.
When you're the richest man in the world, your fast car could be pretty fast.
It could be really fast. It can, be suborbital. Yeah. But there's another piece of this, which is the world is quickly being divvied up by China. And China is also making huge advancements in some of these same areas. And, China under Xi Jinping is in the process of a infrastructure land grab. And literally just a couple of days ago when the CCP had its 100-year parade in Beijing, she showed up in a Mao era style suit, like a gray suit. So he's making it. Yeah. He's
that's
very, very, he's the fifth leader, I think, since Mao. And he is very clearly saying that, they're going to be more like wolves than sheep and aggressively pursuing CCP ideas, which makes sense. He sees like a very short window of time. So they're pushing pretty aggressively, so I don't know. We'll have to see what shakes out with our companies.
I did not see that. Here's a picture of the 100th anniversary with President Xi in a mouse suit, which is not widely worn anymore in China, but it is very important iconography for the Chinese people. When I was in Beijing some years ago, I went to Mao's tomb, and there's hours and hours long lines of people from all over the country coming to see Mao's body in that suit. And so I think he, despite the fact that he did some horrible things in China, killed millions of his citizens, but he's still revered, I think, by some. And it's certainly significant that she was wearing that suit. I have not.
Oh, yeah. And that's like totally. And there's a rise in nationalism. People are very excited about Chinese companies in China. And Alibaba, is one of those companies. And it isn't. We do a ton of work overseas in Scandinavia and Western Europe and, all over. And Alibaba is pushing hard into some of these markets. So again, I look at the new values statement from Amazon, and I'm seeing this a little bit less as a sustainability goal and more like we're going to be more globally dominant, outside of the US, for example. So.
So do you think that's why he wore that suit? Is that of national pride?
Not because of just Jeff Bezos and Amazon, but yes, it's very public. They are very, very intent.
It's
She is
interesting.
very intent on. Yeah.
You normally see him in a Western suit and tie.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a huge red flag. Literally.
Very interesting. Yeah. Bright red. So I don't know if Jassy will be a leader in the mold of Jeff Bezos, if he will be a caretaker more in the mold of a Tim Cook. But it starts on Monday. One of the things Amazon has done, maybe it's Jeff Bezos's last act, has asked to have the brand new chair of the FTC, Lena Khan, recuse herself over any antitrust actions against Amazon because she's clearly biased, says Amazon's attorney. She's written many papers saying the big tech companies ought to be broken up, both as a professor and as an attorney. I think it's a reasonable thing for Amazon to try. I don't know if a judge will back it up. It's kind of an interesting way to fight this antitrust furor.
I saw this, Leo, and I thought of every single Twitter appearance I've had, like criticizing all these different big companies and realizing, well, there goes my dream of being at the FTC. It sounds like a like you said, a ploy.
It's a Hail Mary,
lawyers.
right?
Yeah, I don't know how credible it is. It seems like working the refs, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to yell at the referees and hope that it helps more of the calls go your way, and they've shown that it works. So
she was asked by Mike Lee during her confirmation if she should recuse herself.
Well,
so on the Republican side anyway, there might be some sentiment that she shouldn't.
I feel like, you can't know a lot about these things and not have opinions about things. And I think the better question is, can you be fair? And, everything I've seen, this does seem that the Biden administration in general is going to be a lot tougher on antitrust and anti-competitive action, which I fully support. And I think she's going to be in that vein. But I don't think she's going to be underhanded, I think she'll be fair.
I hate them and I'm going to get them. Right. Yeah. Although you could look at the EU commissioner, Margrethe Vestager, and she clearly hates big American tech companies. So much so, what was the latest thing? She said, well, we don't, I'm not sure if what Amazon and Apple are up to in protecting privacy. She said Apple's privacy protections might just be a way of trying to become more dominant. So I'm going to really have to look at this. Wow. It's like, I have to say, there you might have a case that she actually has an axe to grind. She's really already decided how the case will be decided. I
kind of love the fact that Europe's main contribution to the future of technology at this point is regulations.
Yeah.
I mean, can I offer a counterpoint to like another way to do this? So I was talking to some folks in the government of Dubai a couple of weeks ago, and they were telling me that in Dubai, I think everybody knows, they're starting to test all different types of drones that can carry different payloads. So drones to take pictures, drones to carry small packages around, and of course, those ridiculous flying taxis, drones that would carry one or two people from place to place. And so as this technology is being developed and tested, they've actually launched a beta testing group within the government to develop and pilot and beta test policy, which is really, really cool. So basically what they're doing is, as the tech is being developed, there's a group of people who are thinking about and trying to beta test policy, and they're talking to each other rather than it being totally siloed. So by the time that the technology is actually ready, there's policy ready to go with it. And it just seems like such a really smart approach, hard one, really, really difficult, but also like a much easier path forward for everybody.
I'm just booking a drone taxi right now in Dubai. I just want to see how much it's going to cost.
I think Uber tried that for a while, right?
Yeah. So here's the Margrethe. I got to work on her name. Margrethe Vestager. She warned Apple against using privacy and security to limit competition. Yeah, we wouldn't want that. But, I mean, she's right. Apple is focusing on privacy and security as a differentiator with other companies in tech. And yes, they would like to beat the competition by doing so, but I can't see any benefit to the EU penalizing them for that. Maybe other companies should do their best to improve privacy and security too.
Or maybe incent them instead. If you approach all of this punitively, then these companies are going to fight back. And ultimately, what is the end goal? You want better privacy for people, I would assume, right? And so is there another approach that doesn't result in years and years of protracted legal arguing? And I think there is. Is there a way to incent these companies to change their policies in a way that everybody benefits? That is a much more challenging approach. I think it's the smarter approach in the long term.
Yeah, I think all of us here, we're hyper educated on these tech issues. I do want to say, though, I can understand how someone from the outside would see some of Apple's stuff as anti-competitive. I do. I just bought a very, very top-of-the-line Windows laptop this week. It kills me that I cannot get my iMessages on that.
Yes.
All of us understand, the encryption, and if they open that up to things like Windows, it's just drastically less private. It makes the entire ecosystem weaker. We understand that, but I can understand how a regulator would look at that fact and the fact that Apple Music, it's much more difficult to use it on a Windows laptop and a lot of that lock-in. I think there's a discussion you can have there. So I think, again, it comes back to, can you trust these regulators to be fair? And then ultimately, what is the legal environment that they're working in? Are the laws going to be fair? I personally fall on the side where I have faith in that.
All right, now you're forcing me to be fair to Margarethe Vestager and point out that this response was Apple said, look, we can't allow side loading in our store because it would hurt privacy and security.
Yep.
And she says, no, I'm not against privacy and security, but I want to make sure that that's the real reason they're doing it, not as an anti-competitive move. They're they're hiding behind privacy and security as a shield to allow them to be monopolistic, and I guess that's not unreasonable. So I apologize.
Yeah, I agree.
Please don't investigate me.
I don't know if this means anything to anybody, but I had to get a new phone.
Yeah.
And so I've been using a Galaxy forever, and I was thinking, the new privacy features I actually like a lot, and I came this close to switching back to an iPhone.
But you didn't.
But I didn't.
What'd you get?
Ultimately, I got an S. What is
S21?
This? 21 plus. Yeah. I got a enormous. I can't hold it in one hand. Phone.
That's the latest Samsung. Yes.
It was this or a one that was smaller than I had before. But I don't know. I hate the way that Apple locks down the entire OS, and you can't do any. It's so locked down and dumbed down, and I ultimately just went back to Samsung. I might, when the new, whatever the new OS, the mobile OS is called.
iOS 15.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that comes out, November?
Yeah, the
December?
public beta came out this week. I've been playing with it a little bit. On the iPad, it really is nice. And they've fixed up the multitasking. They've added some nice features. Apple is really good, and I hate them for this, at making you want to live entirely in the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
That's the whole point of not putting iMessages on Android or Windows. That's the whole point of adding features that work only as long as you have a Mac, an iPad, and an iPhone. So then, for instance, Notes, Apple's Notes app, which comes with all three devices, now has a nice feature. You can swipe up from the corner and add a note to a web page. The next time you go to the web page, that note is available. That is a great feature.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm going to use that a lot. And I'm kind of reason I'm very hyper aware of it is I'm into note-taking apps. I have the weird fetish looking for the best note-taking app. And it's going to make me mad if there are features in Apple's Notes, which is not the best note-taking app, but that I want in all of my apps. And similarly, you're going to be able to drag. This is wild. But if you have an iMac or a Mac desktop with an iPad, you can drag a folder from one to the other just by dragging it with the mouse over to the next screen. These are things Apple does very well, and ecosystem plays that Apple does very well that make it very attractive. And to people like you, to both of you who are in hybrid universes, I don't know if you're not getting the worst of both worlds.
I don't know.
Wouldn't you want all Galaxy or all Apple or no?
What something I found lately is, Amy, I really agree with what you're saying, where I feel like a frog boiling in water. I had slowly gotten not used to how much I was giving up being on all 100% Apple. I'm one of the people that around 2007, I'd kind of discovered the Mac and just went all in. Now with Unreal Engine 5 coming out and really wanting to learn.
There's a good example.
It,
yeah.
I've spent a lot of time, working in Windows now. I just bought this. This is a Razor Blade.
Apple did this as an unforced error. This is the Apple Epic problem.
Absolutely. But my point is, I was talking to Christina about this. I feel like for people like us, we do like to play with things and tinker. And what I've found spending more time in Windows lately is there's this joyous experience of tweaking things and downloading whatever I want that I've really just it's like I've shut that part of my brain off. And then, they introduce the M1 chip and you give it up a little bit more. And then, you give up unsigned apps. And I think I've come to the point where I really feel like I need both machines, like one to do my fun, experimental play stuff with, and then an Apple device for, consuming stuff, for having a phone, doing that kind of stuff where it's very secure and predictable and easy to use, but very, very locked down.
Do you think that the ideal will ultimately being a little bit of everything?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please.
You.
No, go ahead.
So Brianna just made me think of something. So I think all of this antitrust and anti-competitiveness stuff that's going on is actually an argument about interoperability, but I don't think you can legislate, right?
They're trying to. That's one of the 6 bills.
Yeah. Because I'm not saying that they should totally work together, but haven't we been having this, Mac versus PC problem now for, I don't know, since I was in high school?
Could you legislate?
Very long time ago. Could
you say that, as I think is this David Cicilline's bill, the one that requires companies be interoperable? Could you order that?
I don't know. I can tell you that I can. We use Macs at work. I'm on a Mac right now, and I can plug this Android in using something called the Dex app. Samsung, which is actually pretty cool. It emulates it's an emulator, so it'll emulate.
You're using Dex? Really?
I am. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not janky anymore.
So you have a Dex dock that you put your Samsung in, and a big screen the dock is attached to with keyboard and mouse, and now suddenly you have a desktop operating system powered by your phone, which admittedly with an 888 in there is a pretty powerful device.
It works, and mostly I just use it for really fast file transfer. No, but it works enough. But some of these central challenges still persist. And I think beyond just being able to open up a document, which is harder than it should be still, these are communication devices. We should be able to communicate the same way on all of them. I have plenty of friends with iPhones, so no, I don't use Messenger on my Android. But I can run a system, I can sort of cobble together and make things work.
So are you saying the market should do this, not the house?
What I'm saying is I'm wondering if some of the concerns that regulators are talking about and people who are funneling up the pipeline, if what they're really talking about is their frustration around interoperability. Not always just some of this is clearly anti-competitiveness, but
I think there's a lot of it that is definitely not about interoperability. Look at, one of the things like Amazon, Facebook have a real tendency to gobble up any competitor that's out there. That's not like a data transfer issue. It's a monopoly issue. And I also have to say there's every time you do that, you are you're opening up privacy issues, right? Like, something that I think many people have thought about is opening up all the Facebook data to competitors, so you could have more people using that data and allow Facebook competitors to come along. That also would be a privacy apocalypse. Just to give you a really specific example, Rebellion Pack is making a really big data play right now. We are getting in and using hyper micro targeting in a way that just political people don't have a way to do it.
Hyper micro targeting.
So let me give you a very specific example, Leo.
Okay.
We have the voter file over here. So I can go and find people that just registered to vote in order to vote Trump out of office. And I can find people that, based on their location data, have spent a lot of time in hospitals or healthcare, or read articles on how to file for bankruptcy. And then I can show them ads on universal healthcare. That's how targeted it is. Like, that's so much information.
The voting information is public record. How do you get that?
You have to pay a ton for that. Oh my God, do you?
But it is public record, right? I mean,
it's a public record, but getting access to the entire database.
Yeah, somebody has to go to the courthouse and get it and collate it and put it online. So that's
and
what
the Democratic Party and Republican parties have virtual monopolies on that. But that's
what about the medical information? Where are you getting that from? Is that Facebook?
You get it from third-party data brokers. They get all these different information sources together. Would you do this?
Would you feel okay doing that?
Yeah, I do.
Spying those ads that way, targeting them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to show people information is relevant to their voting interests. My point is...
So you understand that people are... This is really interesting, because a lot of the people that you're trying to reach, a lot of these voters are also very concerned about privacy.
Absolutely.
And they're being hyper-micro-targeted. That's interesting. I understand the value of it. I understand the value of it.
It is a gut check situation, Leo. But at the same time, I think the side I happen to be on is losing in a lot of ways, and I think we have to fight with the same tools the other people are.
Right. And of course, businesses too, using the same tools with the same kind of rationale behind it.
Absolutely.
This is why it's such a difficult and nuanced conversation, because if you talk about privacy abstractly, everybody's for it. Everybody loves the idea that Apple's giving you the choice whether you should be tracked or not when you install an app. But there is another side of that equation, which is, would it be better, Brianna, if all hyper micro targeting were eliminated, then you're all on a level playing field? Would you prefer that?
I don't know if you could do it. I mean, can you legally stop someone from crossing one database with another database?
That's actually, to me, of all the big tech regulation, I think the best one to focus on is not security, privacy, but is to focus on data, control of your data.
Yeah.
That, to me, seems like an area maybe we could do something about.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of critiques of Andrew Yang, but I've never seen a politician talking about owning your own data and being able to monetize it, because I can promise you other people are.
Yang is interested in that.
Yeah, he's very, very much so.
Yeah. The FTC did vote this week to expand their enforcement powers 3-2 along party lines to repeal a policy statement from 2015 that said they couldn't challenge unfair. Now, I don't know why in 2015 they agreed to this, that they couldn't challenge unfair methods of competition if they don't violate existing antitrust laws. So I guess the commission said, look, there's got to be a law against it before we can investigate it or challenge it, I guess. Lena Khan, this is one of her first actions as chair of the FTC, said the 2015 statement doubled down on the agency's longstanding failure to investigate and pursue unfair methods of competition. The guidance only hindered the agency's enforcement efforts. Certainly, definitely a statement by the FTC. No, we're going to start getting much more active. This is the same FTC, of course, that allowed Facebook to buy Instagram and WhatsApp without any noise, and is now saying, well, they shouldn't have been able to. And Facebook, quite rightly, is saying, well, you let us. You can't unwind that. You gave us permission. We did ask.
I mean, part of the problem is you've got different administrations cycling people through these.
It changes too fast.
So, I mean, you could say a lot of the same stuff about the FCC. In the United States, our elected officials have the ability to appoint people, the heads of these agencies, and these agencies have some, amount of power.
I should point out this was an Obama era guidance, however.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know. FTC did have a successful action this week against Broadcom. They had accused Broadcom of monopolizing the market for semiconductor components. There is a consent decree, and Qualcomm has, without admitting guilt, of course, agreed to a settlement. So they had been, charges were filed, or at least the FTC had voted to file charges, and now Broadcom said, "Okay, let's work this out." They settled in October with the European Commission. What was Broadcom doing? Is this 5G? Is it wireless?
Yeah, it sounded like they were buying up all the components to basically, produce their modem technology.
Yeah. FTC said in a release, Broadcom is one of the few significant suppliers of 5 related types of chips. They made long-term agreements with at least 10 OEMs that make set-top boxes and broadband devices, preventing those OEMs from buying chips from anybody else. You can't do that.
No.
And they got caught. And so they're not going to be allowed to do that any further. Broadcom used to be an American company, but I think it is no longer American. I feel like I remember that they were bought by a Chinese company. Let me just...
Well, I think this kind of access to chips, it's gonna get to be more and more of a problem. And I think you can expect these monopsonies that companies like Apple create. I think you can expect it to be under further and further scrutiny moving forward. I mean, the reason, Leo, I love to collect old cars, and every single one of my collectible cars is worth a ton of money right now because the used market is so hot because you can't buy new cars with the chip shortage. So, I think more equal access to the things you use to build a high technology, I think very correctly that should be under more scrutiny.
I apologize. Broadcom, which was a U.S. company, was bought by a Singaporean company called Avago. So they are owned by a Singaporean company at this point. I would pause at this moment for a commercial, but we don't have any because it's the 4th of July and nobody tried to sell this show. So good news. You guys got to sit here and take it. No break. But I guess I could say this episode of Twit is brought to you by listeners like you, members of Club Twit, who are helping us survive a bit of a downturn in the economy over the last year. Club Twit is a way that you can show your support for everything we do. $7 a month gets you not only ad-free versions of all of our shows. In effect, this is the Club Twit version of the show. You're getting a listen to what it would be like without any ads. Audio and video of all of our shows. You also get a Twit Plus feed, which has some good stuff from before and after the shows, special episodes of things. We have a Linux show we're doing on Club Twit Plus feed, so forth. And then finally, you get access to our members-only Discord, which is a lovely place to hang out. If you haven't tried Discord, this is a great way to get to know it. If you're already a user of Discord, you'll love adding Club Twit to your Discord channels. We have discussion sections for all of the shows, plus conversations about every topic under the sun, loved by geeks: books, data science, gaming, hacking, sci-fi, travel. And we even, that's where I play my Valheim in the club. It's a lot of fun. If you want to know more about Club Twit, twit.tv/Club Twit. We really thank you for all the Club Twit members for your support for everything we're doing.
Hey, Leo,
yes.
Will there be on Discord for Club Twit, will there be a foundation channel?
Oh, are you excited?
Ooh.
What is this?
Am I excited? Have I been waiting my entire life to see my favorite book ever written finally made into something watchable?
Apple
Yes.
TV's doing it, so they'll be
really
putting a lot of money into it.
The trailers look pretty amazing.
It's coming. We now know September 24th will be the debut.
Yeah. Now I'll say the trailer that I saw had a little bit less emphasis on Selden than.
I think. You're a Harry Seldon. Is that how you got the inspiration to be a futurist?
Well, I'm alive as far as I know.
Unlike Harry. But he was. That's a big part of the whole novel. Is the Harry Seldon was able to kind of predict through scientific means, not clairvoyance.
Science and psychological means.
Yeah, what do they call them? Psychohistorians, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the 60s, or the 40s.
Okay, so this is my qualm about the whole thing. First of all, have you reread the novels lately?
No.
I have not.
I haven't either, and I'm a little afeared of doing so. A lot of the science fiction that I loved as a kid, when I reread it, does not age well. Heinlein's stuff, for instance.
I love Heinlein.
I love him too, but it doesn't age well. And I'm afraid the Foundation, I don't know if it's going to age well. Then the other qualm I have is this is way glitzier than I think it should be.
It spans 1,000 years, so there's that.
I feel like it shouldn't look like Star Wars, if you know what I mean.
I don't think it looks like Star Wars. I think it looks a little bit more like the Dune. I mean, if anything, it looks Dune-y? A little bit more Dune-y to me.
Yeah. Well, that's also a concern.
Except for that part that you're showing right now, which does
look exactly like Stormtroopers, but okay.
Lee Pace was a good casting choice. I don't know, whatever. Let's not.
Are you excited?
Let's let my dream live for a while.
The dream will live. You know what? We'll have you all back on the 25th, and you can.
I love it.
Let us know. I do love him. He is wonderful. Is he Harry Seldon? Who is he going to be?
Who, Lee Pace?
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Jared Harris. That's who I was thinking of. I like Jared Harris.
Yep. I feel like Heinlein is my feminist guilty pleasure.
Yeah, it should be.
It so much.
It's the most sexist books ever written.
It's so sexist.
All the women are buxom and beautiful.
Right, and it's so belittling. But he also says so much about human nature that is profound and interesting and fascinating. And he's a libertarian. Like, what I love about Heinlein is he's putting out ideas out there that I don't agree with, but he's truly challenging your mind and making you go, why don't I agree with it? Because he's putting such a good argument forward.
That's what I try to do with Ayn Rand as well. Is when I love her writing, and I have to admit I love her books, completely disagree with the premise.
Yeah.
And you're right. It forces you to say, well, why do I disagree? Why do I have
to tell you, I was writing with Frank and we were listening to a book called Sixth Column, which has more anti-Asian slurs than you could possibly imagine.
Oh, geez.
It's almost like it was so painful, and it's such a good novel.
That's Heinlein as well,
time.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's Heinlein.
Okay, Foundation. No, we're excited. We're excited.
Good.
It's going to be good.
We got Dune coming out finally.
Yeah,
maybe
Dune should have been a miniseries, not a movie.
Dune is impossible to make into a movie, so we will see.
Yeah, sorry.
We will see. They're like doing it in 2 parts.
Yeah, no, sorry. This is the opportunity. This is what the opportunity is now. Is you could take novels like Foundation and spread them out over many more hours, so you get more of the flavor of it. And I feel like any attempt, and there have been 2 now to make Dune into a movie. This will be the
I think
third.
there's been more than that.
More than that.
Yeah,
it's doomed just because it's too short.
The source material is weird to start with. I mean, the whole,
Yeah, it always ends up. Dune ends up being campy. You can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we just take a second and admit Apple TV content has been way better than it has any business being? Like Lisey's Story is out right now. That's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel. That is excellent. Morning Show is excellent.
I didn't think Morning Show was excellent.
No.
I have felt that it's less than it should have been. Ted Lasso's pretty good.
Yep.
I haven't watched Lisey's Story, so I'll have to watch that.
Mosquito Coast, have you seen that?
No, none of these really draw me. That's the problem. I'm not a Justin Theroux fan. C was terrible. That was horrible. I'm told Physical is good. This is a brand new show. Have you watched that?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm saving it with Frank to watch it.
Okay. Although the elevator pitch is horrible. Sheila Rubin is a quietly tormented housewife in 80s San Diego who discovers aerobics, which changes her life. Okay, sorry. I don't know. That is not a great pitch. Is aerobics changing her life? Is it going to? I don't know. We'll find out. It is time for 80s shows, though. See, this. We had the 70s.
You know, Glow was better than I think any of us thought it was going to be.
Glow was
terrific.
So
but
we'll give it the 80s chance.
Yeah. Glow was 80s, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Leo, I wonder what is, since we're talking about everything, what's the one untold story from the world of tech that you think deserves to be made into a movie or a show?
I was just thinking this the other day that it really should be. So there are a number of really good books, and actually, Brianna, you know these books, I'm sure, about.
Or it doesn't have to be a book. It could just be like something.
Well, it's got to start with some source material, right?
Yeah.
So there have been a number of good books about game development.
Yeah.
What is the book about id? That would be a great movie.
Masters of Doom.
Masters of Doom.
Yep. Brenda Carmack.
Like
she's
great
a good
untold story from tech, like
great
something crazy that happened at CES in the earlier days. You know what I mean? Like, what's like something that?
No, we can't tell those stories because people are still alive. We have to wait until some people are no longer with us before those stories can be told. Don't
you think G4 could be a really interesting story? I've heard some of the drama there.
Yeah.
You don't think?
Well, I don't know. I'm too close to it to really.
Yeah.
But I do think the hidden life of Bill Gates, I think we're starting to learn, might be kind of an intriguing mini series. He certainly had a lot more going on than we really realize. Don't you think? There's also a redemption arc, which you have to have, right, to make a good story where evil guy turns into a nice guy thanks to the life experiences, and then turns back into the evil guy, and then turns back into the evil guy, and then maybe there'll be redemption down the road.
What was the name of that movie that was great? The Pirates.
Pirates of Silicon Valley was the only good movie ever made about factual movie ever made. I think Silicon Valley, the TV show, was a good. Somebody's talking to me. Is it my phone? Whose phone is answering the call? How about Elon Musk? There's a story. His life story. Though? Is there? I don't know.
Is he really that compelling?
Well,
I don't know.
He's doing a good impression of it if he's not.
I mean, I would rather watch something on Bezos than on Elon Musk.
I'm fascinated by Jeff Bezos. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think he's the real deal. I don't know. Elon, I think, is the real deal because what he's done with both SpaceX and Tesla is truly remarkable.
Yeah, but he also acquired those companies.
Yeah, but
he acquired and built them.
Yeah.
Bezos did not do that.
From scratch.
He started from scratch and built this juggernaut.
Yeah.
So
I think there is a truly great story about women in tech to be told, like in this kind of form. You can make an amazing TV show about it because, we're not a monolith, right? You've got some startup people. You've got some people that are more on the activist side. You've got some people that leave their careers due to atrocities. You have some people that become the villain and, enable the system that hurts a lot of people because it's convenient for their career. I think there is an amazing TV series to be made about that.
If I were a producer, I'm going to tie all of these threads together. I would run, not walk, to buy the rights to Wally Funk. Do you know who Wally Funk is?
No.
Okay. Wally Funk, her full name is Mary Wallace Funk, was chosen by NASA in the 60s to be one of 13 American women to get astronaut training in the Mercury program. They were not allowed to fly because NASA had a requirement at the time you had to be a military fighter pilot. And, of course, there were no, at the time, female military fighter pilots. She became the first female Federal Aviation Administration inspector. She was a pilot, airline pilot and instructor. And she's now going to be the oldest person ever to go into space. She's 82 years old. Wally Funk will be flying, sitting next to Jeff Bezos and his brother. in the New Shepard rocket when they go up
Oh, wow.
on the 24th. She's been selected to go along with somebody who's paying $28 million. Foolishly.
How high up are they going?
Not that high. The reason they're calling it the New Shepard is because it's essentially paralleling Alan Shepard's flight, which was the first manned space flight the U.S. attempted, and all he did was go up and then come back down. It's not even an orbit. But so she's going to have 4 minutes in zero gravity. I should show this video on Instagram. This is what I would. This is why I want to buy the rights to this. Here she is, Wally Funk with Jeff Bezos.
Gravity for 4 minutes. You come back down. We land gently on the desert surface. We open the hatch and you step outside. What's the first thing you say?
I will say, honey, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh, she's going into space. 82
I've been flying
years
forever,
old. Wally Funk.
and I
Now
have
see,
19,600 flying hours.
wouldn't you run out and
Taught
buy her
over
life story?
3,000 people to fly. Private, commercial,
Looks like somebody already
instrument,
did.
Flight engineer,
This is actually
airline
Jeff
transport,
Bezos'
gliding,
Instagram.
Everything that the FAA has, I've got the license for. And I can outrun you.
82.
Back in the
I like her.
Yeah.
313 program.
Yeah.
They
Now,
asked
what's
me,
happening with
"Do you wanna be an
SpaceX? Because
astronaut?"
there's that
Yeah.
whole thing tied in with
They told me.
St. Jude. Seems like there's this race, micro race, nano race to space.
To be the winner of the charity. So this is SpaceX is when is John knows this. He follows space closely. When is
These
the
poor
SpaceX
publicists must be going
launch?
crazy because they probably had their.
They're all at the
plans
same
already.
time. I know. No. But they're going to do the manned launch with the Falcon, not the Falcon. The
SAS. The new.
can't remember the name of it. John, you're supposed to know all of this stuff. The Dragon. The Dragon's going up with 4 people in it, right? The Crew 1 mission. Here's the Crew 1 mission of SpaceX. When is that coming up? Oh, that already happened. No, that's not this one. The one where you get to pay to go, and the millionaire bought it all up.
Right.
And this is going to be the one that's going to the moon. Let me see if I can find this here. You know what I'm talking about, John?
Well, while you guys are looking, let me plug The Expanse, which is
That's a great
I
show.
love it.
There you
I
go.
love it.
There you go.
yeah.
Although it's cheap. Okay, I really
The
like
first-
it, but it looks a little cheap.
It looks the first I don't know, the first maybe 4 episodes were so bad
Yeah, it took me
my
3
husband
watchings.
Brian made me power through.
Yes, it took me 3 watchings to get
Yeah.
far enough in where I could figure out.
I watched it with subtitles. And
It's in English.
I have strong feelings about this because the author, James S.E. Corey, it's 2 people. I consider him a friend.
They would
this
be
is
friends, right? What pronouns do 2 people
friends of
use?
mine.
Well, there's
Both of
there's
them.
two guys who are
They're-
writers. Yeah.
It's Ty and Daniel, just amazing people. I love that book so desperately. I've listened to it probably 20 or 30 times, every single one of the books in the
There's
series.
quite a few of them too, right?
Yeah, it's long. There are 8 of them, and they're not short at all. But he writes in a way that it's one of those books you have to read twice to understand it. And that first season, I'm telling you, I know that book backwards and forwards, and I'm just like, people are going to bounce off this. They're not going to understand it.
There's so
but
much
it is-
politics and so many
Yeah, they had a hard
subplots.
time.
there's so much world building, but
Yeah.
I tell you, it is a brilliant commentary about people that are trying to lessen the violence in the world
Right.
and people that are trying to exploit the amount of
Yes.
violence in the
The
world
politics
for
are great.
themselves.
I'm not surprised you
It's
love
10
it
out of 10.
because you're
Oh,
a
it's great.
politician. You love this stuff, right?
It's
The human
it's
dynamics
great.
and the Amazon is planning in a related story a rebel alliance. They what?
You doing a Johnny Carson for us here?
Yeah, I am good at this kind of segue. They have decided to partner with Slack, Dropbox, and others to create a office to fight Microsoft. The Rebel Alliance, they're calling it. I don't know if there's more to say than that, but we'll see.
I think that's more like Jabba the Hutt is taking on the empire myself. But,
Isn't it interesting how these giant oligarchs like to think of themselves as rebels?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see competition in that space. I feel like we in the tech industry have never really reevaluated our position on Microsoft, which is much better today than it was a couple of decades ago. But I think I'd love to see more competition there. That'd be great.
Yeah. Actually, I have to say that I've said this a few times. The DOJ investigation of Microsoft in the late 90s turned Microsoft into a better company as a result. And they have, under Satya Nadella, pivoted in such a way that I think they're a very strong company, much more stronger than they had any right to believe. They were turning into the next IBM, and instead they've actually shown that they've got a future. They might be the next Apple. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to ask what you thought of the Windows
what a hoorah there, huh?
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain irony to this. Microsoft last week announced Windows 11, and I thought that all of the storm and drang, all the furor over this would be about A, it's Windows 10 with a new skin, and B, they centered the start button and the task menu. I thought, I'm going to see acres of ink over this stupidity, and then it'll be done. And instead, Microsoft decided, they said, hold my beer. We can really make a problem here. We're going to say you can't use it with a processor that is as little as 2 years old. And oh, by the way, you have to have TPM 2.0. And then all the people who were about ready to say, I don't want Windows 11. I'm going to stick with Windows 10 because that's the usual refrain when a new version of Windows comes out. Instead, got to whine, I can't get Windows 11. I want it. I think this is brilliant marketing on Microsoft's part. They made people want something that they were prepared to hate.
Yeah. I think a lot of the stuff in there, like auto HDR, I'm very, very excited for that. If you don't know, HDR is a photography technique that oversaturates and undersaturates an image. And for post-processing in game engines, you can do that same kind of process. It's not actually that expensive. And Microsoft is enabling auto HDR.
Is that something that's going to be built into the... is it from the graphics cards doing the work? Or, I know it's a feature of Windows. It came from Xbox, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's going to be built into basically the graphics API. I don't know much about, I haven't dug into the API myself to learn how it works, but I could say the results of it are stunning. The processor overhead from my own experimentation with these kinds of post-HDR processes, it's not terrible. And it's like a lot of, I wouldn't say home runs, but a whole lot of doubles that they announced with Windows 11 that have me really excited for it.
Oh, see, there you go. And how do you feel about rounded corners and centered taskbars?
I'm for it. I think
it makes
Windows
it look like a Mac.
Yeah, it does. John Gruber has said for a long time, Microsoft should go hire some really talented designers and force Windows to start over and make it look more modern.
Yes,
and
they did that.
From what I've seen, it looks cool.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah. That actually, I have to agree with you. Of course, all the controversy is about Microsoft's seemingly arbitrary requirements for compatibility. I think it's their right to do this. Apple does this every time, right? They just so and I think the unsaid supposition is that they're doing this to sell PCs, to help the PC industry sell more PCs. To require you, if you want to use it, buy a new PC. But I always
buy a new
out,
PC versus what? A phone?
Upgrade. Versus. So PC industry, by the way, had a great year last year in 2020.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's the problem they're trying to solve?
There's a suspicion that great year won't be repeated next year.
Got it.
That everybody who wanted a PC will have bought a PC. That the reasons people ran out and buy PCs for Zoom classrooms and work at home are going to evaporate. Actually, that turns out so far this year not to be true. That people are, in fact, buying PCs in droves this year as well, maybe because they're getting to work from home. I don't know. But I think there was some concern the PC industry would see a big dip and that the supposition was, well, Microsoft's going to juke it by offering a new version of Windows. Traditionally, in the Windows world, that's how you get the next version of Windows. You don't upgrade. Windows 10 broke that mold. But prior to Windows 10, you just use Windows until you got the new computer, and then you use the next, whatever it came with. People didn't upgrade.
I mean, a lot of these companies that are doing some form of intermittent or permanent work from home or flexible work schedules, which include enormous companies like Fujitsu, like
Google's doing it now. Yeah.
What's that?
Google.
Yeah. So, I mean, so if that's the case, then every one of your, we're moving into this sort of BYO, bring your own device.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that has
ecosystem.
helped. Unexpectedly,
So
I think that's
going to, right. And that will probably continue as people sort of sort out and figure out where they're going to be. But on the other side of that, if I was a CISO right now, I would be hair on fire trying to figure out what I'm going to do for security, because
no kidding.
What's the over under on your employee patching firmware or whatever's updating their router? You know what I mean?
Oh, I completely agree with you. I think that in the long run, the only thing that went wrong with the Windows 11 launch was PR, and that Microsoft's not handled it well. The communication's been poor. I think they'll probably solve this by changing the requirements over time. And I don't think it's going to end up being a long-term black mark. But I think the PR was terrible on this. Now, let's talk about security, because there's a lot of stories there. And go ahead, finish the.
No. Go ahead, Leo.
So, big supply chain attack just announced. The REvil ransomware gang has taken over the Kaseya VSA. Kaseya is a cloud-based MSP platform. A lot of managed service providers use it. MSPs, we use an MSP. If you're a smaller company, you don't have a full-time IT staff, you might use a managed service provider to do your IT. A lot of them use Kaseya, which is a patch management and client monitoring platform. Kaseya has been compromised, and as a result, the fear is so have thousands of MSPs, all using Kaseya. Huntress Labs' John Hammond told Lawrence Abrams at Bleakeeping Computer, we're tracking 20 MSPs where Kaseya was used to encrypt over 1,000 businesses with ransomware, and are working in close collaboration with 6 of them. The biggest so far looks to be a Swedish supermarket chain called Coop. They've closed 800 stores in Sweden. Look at this. This is a great sign. IT problem. There is something that's cross barriers, cross language barriers. I can't read the rest of it, but IT problem, I understand. Ransomware has shut them down. They can't take payments. Their cash registers stopped working. So the stores had to close. They're hoping they can reopen tomorrow. But this is going to be this is another nasty one. And supply chain is very tough. SolarWinds was also a supply chain attack.
Yeah.
Right. So
I
it
mean,
sounds
if
like,
I could buy, go ahead. No.
Oh, we've got a lag.
Yeah, I apologize. Yes.
I was going to say, no, I mean, the especially as people are using more and more remote services, we're going to see more of this. And it sounds like this was yet another nation state attack, possibly.
Yep.
And MSPs have been a popular target
because it leverages
by nation state hackers.
All you have to you hack Kaseya, and boom, you got it. Thousands of other computer systems.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a guy, CTO of BreachQuest, called Kaseya the Coca-Cola of remote management, just to give you a sense of how significant this is.
Does that mean it's sugary and bad for your teeth, or it's big?
And you can buy it in a can with your friend's name on it. Yeah.
But did you?
No, I was just going to say, this is ransomware in general has been really, really, really bad lately. There was a story that came out this week about Russia actually going through and brute forcing, trying old school brute force attacks to get passwords on various companies in the energy sector. This was Fancy Bear doing it, which is a part of the GRU. If I could buy stock in ransomware continuing to devastate companies, I would do that because it's almost certainly going to happen. It's such a difficult problem to solve too, because like here in Massachusetts, we had a company that shut down because because 3 foreign nationals came in, interned for the company, and stole the entire code base and left. And thousands of people lost their job because of that. You've got attacks from the inside. You've got attacks from the outside, from nation states. You've got problems with not updating software, like with Equifax, where they didn't run an Apache update. I mean, it's such a massive problem to solve. And the thing is, the pipeline to address this is so astonishingly inconvenient for everyone. And it's just going to get worse from here.
It's so funny because we think of these nation state attacks as being highly sophisticated, but fancy bears just trying different passwords.
Yeah.
I mean, what's really, I think that the part here that's so challenging is that so lots of people have been talking about the need for digital transformation, which is like a gobbledygook, ridiculous, jargony, made up phrase. But essentially what that means is like, you got to automate your stuff, like stop using paper records. You got to digitize, you got to put yourself in the cloud, use security, all that stuff. And Leo, as you mentioned at the top, small to mid-sized businesses, they can't hire a full-time IT person.
We depend on our MSPs to keep us secure.
So, right. And so what's smart about, from the hacker's point of view, attacking that MSP, and targeting all these tiny businesses, a lot of these places don't have cash in the bank. They don't have runway. Yeah. So if you target, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of tiny little businesses, a lot of them are going to do whatever they have to do in order to get back online so that they can keep working. So it's a really shitty thing that they've done, but also kind of unfortunately, it's a vulnerability.
We're going to have to accept the fact that this is going to be the future of warfare. Mm-hmm. This is cyber warfare. I'm sure you've written about
this in economic terms, right? So that's the issue. I wrote about this in my last book. So in the Big Nine,
yes, right.
One of the big challenges we face going forward is that we don't have a definition for warfare outside the realms that we've currently defined it. So if you've got a nation state attack, that is targeting bits and pieces of our technological and economic infrastructure, and you are in some way creating or wreaking economic havoc on parts of our society, that does cripple us in some way. It makes us weaker as a nation, but we don't currently define that type of attack as warfare.
Well, didn't Biden say to Putin, hands off these critical infrastructure?
He didn't, and then he gave him a pair of sunglasses.
No, I think that's a little pessimistic. I mean, he went through and he started to try to make a framework about, look, we are nations, we're not friends, right? But these are targets that we would consider legitimate. These are the targets we would not consider legitimate.
Do we need a Geneva Accord for cyber warfare, in effect, where, look, we all agree we're not going to attack hospitals?
I think we do. And, another thing, this may be a controversial opinion, but, you don't expect yourself to defend, I don't need to defend Massachusetts from external attack. I do think there's a role for the Pentagon to play here. And maybe we need to subsidize certain systems to give small business access to basic cybersecurity tools. That would be a very good investment, I think, as far as being a subsidy. I think it's time to really think about this holistically because it's about our economy. It's about our ability to function. It's about our schools, our hospitals, our privacy. There's clearly a national security interest here.
I think there's also an issue, though, because I would say Russia is a failed state or close to. And as a result, they have less to lose. I think we might be able to go to China, Amy, and say, look, we won't attack your infrastructure if you don't attack ours. Mm-hmm. But Russia at this point is punching up, and they don't have
Russia
much
has
to
a
lose,
lot,
right?
Yeah, they have a lot more to lose. Putin is also not quite as strong of a leader. And then the pantheon of autocrats, Putin is standing on slightly shakier ground than Xi Jinping. So, I would say trying to cut some kind of a Cold War era deal, but mutually assured destruction, but make it code.
That's interesting.
I think it's going to be challenging.
Are our hackers as good as their hackers?
Brianna might know this better. I mean, it's my understanding that the folks who are working in Russia and China are elite.
They also have they have huge alliances with the mob, right? So the mob is over there conducting a lot of. It's like one of the most profitable sectors in Russia. Is the Russian mob will go out and get a young coder, and will do all these cryptocurrency schemes. So it's really
hard to negotiate with the mob.
That's my point. Like we are constrained by rules of warfare, and largely they are not.
Yeah.
And I think that's where something like a Geneva Convention for Code could be very helpful.
Yeah, unless they don't play the game, they don't play along.
Yeah. Yep.
Microsoft has a 0-day that's actively being exploited in its Windows print spooler. Some security firm has named this PrintNightmare. Sangfor published, unfortunately, the proof of code accidentally. It was immediately forked, and as a result, the code is out there, resulting in multiple 0-day vulnerabilities in the Windows print spooler service. Sangfor was going to show it at Black Hat, but once the proof of code got out, they immediately ran over and said, whoops. Whoops. The vulnerability allows attackers to use remote code execution through the print spooler. You can remotely install programs, modify data, create new accounts with full admin rights. The vulnerability exists in all versions of Windows. Not clear, though, if it's exploitable beyond server versions of Windows. So this is another one where your MSP is going to have to come on over. And there are some mitigations, mostly which involve taking your print spooler offline. I don't know if that's a long-term fix. Add that to the 0-day with the Western Digital drives, and now you've got a lot of fun going on. My Book Live. This is one that might make an interesting movie. At first, we thought that the reason that owners of this already out of date, I mean, they stopped selling it in 2015, stopped supporting it in 2015, network-attached storage device had a flaw that was exposed in 2018. We thought this was the flaw being used to erase these drives. Many, many users said that their data had been completely erased after a reset of the drive. Then it turns out, no, maybe it wasn't that. There was a remote code execution flaw, a 0-day. Nevertheless, Western Digital is not patching these. Their fix is take your drive offline. We will not. Now there's a problem in the MyCloud OS 3.0 firmware, which may affect many, many more devices. Western Digital's solution to that is you need to upgrade to OS 5. Some say, but that's a complete rewrite with lots of functionality missing. So there's kind of a mess. Maybe get a different manufacturer for your NAS. Very interesting story. Dan Gooden had a good breakdown of it on Ars Technica. But just an example of, an IoT device that is not being patched is a recipe for disaster. It's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. Apps with 5.8 million downloads on Google Play stole users' Facebook passwords. 9 apps that, and this is something you should just be aware of, the apps did actually work. They actually, unusually, they actually did things like photo editing and framing, exercise and training, horoscopes, removing junk files. But at some point, the apps offered users an option to log into their Facebook account in order to disable ads. They saw a genuine Facebook login, but the Trojans used a mechanism to steal that login. So, unfortunately, 5.8 million people downloaded those apps, like Processing Photo, App Lock Keep, Rubbish Cleaner, Horoscope Daily, Horoscope Pi, App Lock Manager, Lock It Master, InWell Fitness, and Pip Photo. Do not give them your Facebook credentials, even if you don't want any ads.
I thought I've been noticing companies are not using OAuth so much.
Yeah,
anymore.
That's disappointing. Right? I think maybe because it doesn't play well with some apps, doesn't do well on mobile. Google still uses it, but I think a lot of them are, what Microsoft does, which I really like, is a single sign-on with its authenticator. It'll say, okay, I'm firing up authenticator. Give me, click the button that says this number. They give you 4 buttons. You click it and the login's done. This is how you log into Windows and a lot of Microsoft accounts. And I think it's a little bit better than OAuth.
Yeah. Didn't Twitter move over to where you can use an external device like a YubiKey for your
I've been doing that for a while.
Authentication?
Yeah, I've been doing that for a while on Twitter. And for a while, you had to have a fallback to SMS, which not good. After Jack Dorsey's SMS got remember that? He got SIM snatched. What do they call it? They got into his account, and so they turned off SIM what? Sim-yacked? Sim-jacked, that's the word.
Sim-jacked.
Although I'm going to call it sim-yacked from now on. He got sim-yacked, and so after that, they allowed you to have YubiKey minus the SMS, which I immediately turned on. So that's good. Let's see, the states. Let's talk about some states. Maine passes the strongest state facial recognition ban yet.
Huh. Stronger than Illinois?
Yeah. In fact, Illinois just had a
this.
successful prosecution and a case against somebody using face recognition.
So what's the deal now in Maine?
The new law in Maine prohibits government use of facial recognition except in specifically outlined situations, especially probable cause that an unidentified person in an image committed a serious crime or for proactive fraud prevention. They will have to do that through the FBI or the Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Maine police won't have access to facial recognition.
Huh.
ACLU
what
said
I really
this is
like
a
about
major
this
win.
is...
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say what I like about this is it has accountability. So if the police do end up looking for an active suspect, right? They've got probable cause. They've got a good reason to use facial recognition. There's actually oversight with it where that use of facial recognition has to go in a place where the public can review. Additionally, it shuts down a lot of the tricks that they had used to kind of skirt this by maybe someone in Maine law enforcement would call up a friend in Massachusetts and say, hey, can you run this search for me? And it basically shuts that exactly down. So I do worry about like a federated state-by-state approach for this, but it seems to have good stuff in it as best as I can tell.
Illinois' law is actually a biometric, anti-biometric law.
I thought that covered facial recognition.
It does.
Too, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Walmart had to pay a $10 million fine to resolve its lawsuit. They were asking workers to scan their handprints. A court has allowed a lawsuit against Apple to go ahead using Illinois' protections. So this has been very effective. In fact, we all kind of, I think, owe a little debt of gratitude to Illinois because that was a very forward-thinking law, and we've all benefited because, of course, nobody wants to do business in everywhere except Illinois. Six Flags America, $36 million settlement over the park's use of finger scan entry gates. So it's been very effective, very effective. Also, that Florida law that said if you're a social network, you can't ban politicians unless you own an amusement park has been struck down.
Wait, what is that? What is this law?
You haven't heard about this one? Oh,
No.
This is a good one. Once again, Rick DeSantis just showing he is in the forefront. Ron DeSantis. I always call him Rick. Ron DeSantis passed by the way, the Republican Florida legislature was, overwhelmingly in favor of this. The state can fine large social media companies $250,000 a day if they remove an account of a statewide political candidate, $25,000 a day if they remove an account of someone running for local office. Obviously, this is a response to Twitter and Facebook deplatforming the former president. But on the face of it, it violates a couple of important precepts in federal law, one being the First Amendment, the other being a regulation that states cannot regulate interstate commerce. A U.S. district judge granted a preliminary injunction stopping the new law from being enforced the day before it was to take effect on Thursday. Now, it's a preliminary injunction, so a suit will go ahead, and But it seems unlikely that this will, and I don't think the intent ever was to have it be a law, because it did exempt anybody who owned an amusement park. which I think Disney is a pretty big, important company in Florida. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So the new law was aimed at social media businesses and made exemptions for Disney and their apps by including the provision that theme park owners would not be subject to the law.
Well, Disney is full of biometrics and full of.
This is not biometrics.
yeah.
This is
No. But I meant just like using PIIs and
remember,
gatekeeping and stage gating the whole thing.
For a while, Disney wanted to use your thumbprint for their Fast Pass technology, right?
Yeah.
And we on Security Now, Steve Gibson would say, "Don't give them your thumbprint. Do an elbow instead." I don't know if it worked, but the problem with that, of course, for those who just want a little explication, is you can change a lot of things, but you can't change your face and you can't change your thumb. And so you're giving them biometric information that is permanent. And if they don't keep track of that database, that could be problematic.
You know, it's worse. It's your face. So even if you're wearing a mask at Disney, then it's going to track you by either the Magic Band or the app that you have to do everything to get food right now with COVID. So, you're basically entering 1984 when you go to Disney World. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. When signing the bill into law in May, Governor Ron DeSantis said Silicon Valley companies were exerting unprecedented power over the American people when you deplatform, quote, when you deplatform the president of the United States, but you let Ayatollah Khamenei talk about killing Jews. That is wrong. And the governor said, we are disappointed by Judge Hinkle's ruling and disagree with his determination that the U.S. Constitution protects big tech's censorship of certain individuals and content over others. They're going to appeal to the 11th Circuit, which will also throw it out instantly. Qualcomm is working on an M1 competitor. So you talked about how, that Apple M1 is very compelling. Intel doesn't have anything like it. Qualcomm's CEO, their new CEO, Cristiano Amon, says, no, we're going to work on a chip that will compete with the M1. They acquired a startup called Nuvia, founded by former Apple employees who had worked on the M1 for $1.4 billion. So there you go.
How did Adam work out? Can someone jog my memory on
Lord.
that?
Lord.
Have any of Intel's
scale?
excursions into this space?
Remember the mobile scale processor? Yeah, no, Intel has no. But maybe Qualcomm. I mean, they make ARM chips that are very low power. That's what's in your fine Samsung device. It's possible that they could come up with something. Their desktop, so far, their desktop chips have been uninspiring with this. Was it the CX?
Yeah.
Not very powerful. I'm sure Microsoft would love to see something because Windows on ARM is at this point hard to use. It's very slow.
Definitely. I mean, there's, I just bought like a $3,400 laptop, and my biggest complaint with it is,
how do you like that? I'm sorry, keep it.
It gets very hot very quickly.
Yes,
no,
that's the problem.
It's good.
It's an i7 or is it an AMD?
It's an i9, so it's Intel, but it's got the RTX 3080 in it, the notebook version of that.
That's one thing Apple's going to have a hard time, because their GPUs will all be in the M1 chip or whatever its successors are.
Well, and the problem is it's not even the chip technology. It's the game developers that are choosing to work with that. Like, look at Apple Arcade. I like Apple Arcade. There's no game there that I would call visually impressive.
No, not at all.
There hasn't been anything.
Can
really
Unity
since Infinity
compare
Blade.
with?
I don't think they're designing those games though for gamers. I think
they're
designing
casual
them
games.
for.
That's my point. And this is why you've got to have a PC. I've just given up on Apple making the kind of games I want to play. They make some great, pleasant distractions on Apple Arcade, but it's not a core gaming experience.
So I was really excited about Stadia and xCloud and GeForce Now. These are the streaming services. I tried xCloud just came out for the iPad for any browser. Tried it on my iPad Pro with an M1 chip in it, and it was stuttering like crazy. I was trying to play Sea of Thieves. It was just unacceptable. But I'm hoping xCloud will get better. Stadia was pretty decent. I played Cyberpunk on it, and it was the only way I could play Cyberpunk. And it was pretty decent. It wasn't as good as a console or PC would be, but it was, if you have a device like an iPad, at least you could play those games, right?
Yeah, I feel like for Apple and for Microsoft rather to really compete with things like the M1, the issue is the latency, right? Yeah. Like you were talking earlier, Leo, about people that are angry that they're only supporting devices that are, roughly 2 years old. That's great to have a lot of that, but by chopping off like the end of it, you can move forward and you can make the UI more responsive because the layer is thinner.
Yes.
And I think I want to see Microsoft be more aggressive with some of their products in that way to really, truly compete.
Here's some good news. The blue screen of death in Windows 11 will now be black.
Why? Whose UI decision was that?
Microsoft's. The black screen of death. There it is.
That's awesome. The QR code's blue.
Yeah, maybe that's why they wanted a better contrast with the QR code, which will do. By the way, scan it. Go ahead. Absolutely useless. I don't know. It's just, I guess it's to make you feel better about.
Actually, it's kind of smart because the blue screen of death is associated with Microsoft, which is blue. And if you want to associate your brand a little bit less with catastrophic failure.
Well, and if you're going to have a screen of death, shouldn't it be black? Really? I mean, shouldn't be pink.
I got Apple's screen of death.
Ooh,
gosh,
that's
great. 6 months ago.
That one's great.
It was that was horrible. I had spent
feelings.
3 days rebuilding my machine.
Was it hardware? No, it was software.
I don't know if I told you this or not. It was a weird, possibly a NAS-related time machine backup issue, or possibly I bought like really bad RAM.
That's what it was. Bad RAM.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you like your Razer besides being a laptop heater?
Yeah.
Is it good?
It runs Unreal 5 very well. Unreal Engine 5, it's still in preview, so we can't really evaluate what's in there yet. But for everything I've seen, it runs Unreal Engine 4 really, really well. For me, a lot of the way I learn new features is by sitting down and just experimenting while I'm watching Netflix. So I wanted something I could, mess around with Blueprint or new APIs or things like that while I'm watching TV in the den. So that's why I got it.
When are we going to see Unreal 5 games? Unreal 5 is so beautiful.
Very soon. Yeah.
Who will be the first? Uncharted or... What will
No, they use their own engine.
Okay.
What's the Uncharted team? I'm spacing it right now. They use their own proprietary engine. Yeah. But I think this is going to be a big success, which is why Apple's lawsuit is kind of ill-advised.
The Apple Epic lawsuit. It's stunning what Unreal 5 just looks so real. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. And of course, it won't appear on any Apple devices because of the Apple Epic battle.
Well, the apps themselves could theoretically end up there. I think the question that I would have is, investing in making Unreal Engine work on Apple is a very expensive proposition. So do you have faith in that relationship enough to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, literally? I can say for the studio we're thinking about, no. I personally would not do that. What's really interesting, what I'm trying to figure out is the actual game development pipeline, like some of the things like the number of tries you see up close for some things in Unreal Engine. How do you take that and put that in a viable Unreal Engine pipeline? Is it just an LOD trick? That's all the things that we're trying to figure out right now.
Have you tried, as a coder, Microsoft's new GitHub Copilot?
I've not, but I've heard such good things about it.
It's when I first saw this, your AI pair programmer, I thought it said your au pair programmer. And I thought, wow, that would be an interesting au pair. No, the idea is as you're writing something, your pair programming, normally pair programming is two programmers in the same editor working together. In this case, Copilot is an artificial intelligence watching you work, making suggestions for code you might want to use.
So it's Clippy.
It's clippy without the annoying. I see you're writing a login sequence. Would you like? Apparently, it will. But already people are saying, hold on there. This is one tweet I saw from Armin Ronacher. He says, I don't want to say anything, but that's not the right license, Mr. Copilot. He's actually, Copilot is typing in a hack for square roots from Quake.
Wow.
And as it types it in, it says copyright 2015, all rights reserved, redistribution and use in source with or without modification, and permitted only if you do all of these things.
So wait, where's the corpus? Where's it pulling that in from?
That's a good question. People are wondering. Some people
what's their repository?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They say they're going through a lot of different code bases.
They famously open sourced Quake many years ago. John Carmack put a lot of political capital on the line to make that happen. So that actually doesn't surprise me. That's there. I think that's awesome.
It was from Quake 3 Arena.
Yeah.
By the way, if you actually, you might want to watch more closely. I can't read the comment, but let me make this full screen so you can perhaps see it. There is a profane comment in this fast inverse square root routine where the guy offers a constant in hex, and the comment is, what the F? And then I saw on Hacker News, actually, that's not even the right constant. So you might not want to use that code. People famously paste in code from Stack Overflow all the time, causing, the lawyers to wonder.
This seems like a vulnerability or a way for somebody to insert janky code.
Seems like a bad idea.
Backdoor, or this seems concerning.
I don't know. I think pair programming can be a really viable pipeline,
with a human,
especially with a human.
Yeah, with a person.
This
but
is with an AI.
Or they just need to before this thing gets much further, they ought to show everybody where the code bases are. Like where are they pulling from?
They
need
probably
to have an accountability chain.
Yeah. There's questions about, not necessarily issues, but questions about the license. One of the developers says GitHub Copilot is a code synthesizer, not a search engine. The vast majority of the code, it suggests, is uniquely generated and has never been seen before. But
like GPT-3, but make it code.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's still going to start with some kind of corpus for training, and I don't know. They need to. Maybe it's there. I don't know, but I would think that they should disclose.
Let me see if they say powered by Codex, the new AI system created by OpenAI, which created GPT. So it may be a GPT-like. I don't know if it's using GAN or what. We've always thought that computers at some point would be writing their own code. It says,
DeepMind, that we saw beginnings of this, right? But it was a couple of years ago, and AlphaZero was writing its own child programs and developing its own strategy.
One of the things they suggest you do is write a comment describing the logic you want, and then let Copilot write the code for you. Some of these things should be easy to do. Things like repetitive code, it'll have autofill, just like Excel does, basically. Tests without the toil, it'll automatically write test code for you, which is a good thing, right? That's good.
Yeah.
Want to evaluate a few different approaches? Copilot can show you a list of solutions. But where is the description of what is the training set? Is that what you're asking, Amy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says it looks like here the training set is public code and text on the internet.
Yeah, so let's click on that, somebody, and make a list to show us what that is.
Yeah, training set.
I feel like I'm less pessimistic. I would like to try this and see if it's giving you useful suggestions. I mean, the way pair programming works is you write something and then maybe someone sitting next to you sees a way to do it in fewer cycles, right? Like lightly refactoring it. If it's more of that, I could see it being useful. If it's just pasting in garbage, maybe a little bit less useful, but I think it's interesting. It's certainly a technology I would like to see us start developing.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea. OpenAI is doing some interesting things. They said that they've trained this on publicly available data, and they can say that means it's considered fair use. Mm-hmm. So you can reuse this code because it's fair use. It's been trained on a selection of English language and source code from publicly available sources, including Claude in public repositories on GitHub. Now, by the way, if you have a free account on GitHub, your repositories are generally public. That doesn't make it open source. That doesn't mean it's licensed. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. I would say don't use it whole cloth, but maybe if you get an insight from it, then you can write your own code around it. Who owns the code GitHub Copilot helps me write? GitHub, this is from their frequently asked questions. Copilot is a tool, like a compiler or a pen. The suggestions Copilot generates and the code you write with its help belong to you, and you are responsible for it. We recommend that you carefully test it.
But that's an interesting question, because then does the code that you write become part of that code base?
Yeah.
That is then used. You know what I mean?
Maybe. GitHub Copilot, because it was trained on publicly available code, its training set included public personal data. For our internal testing, we found it to be rare that suggestions include personal data verbatim from the training set. However, there is that risk. So
this is getting worse the more you read, Leo.
It's a technical preview. You can sign up for it. I want you to try it next time you're watching Netflix, Brianna. And
I will give it a go. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think if it's not looking at what you're writing and adding that, like using it to train itself to figure out what's useful or what's not useful, that would be giving up like the biggest tool it has to refine itself. So obviously, I would assume your code is going to go into it and to help it train. So that's just an assumption on my part. So that would give me serious pause.
Here's a great story from Stars and Stripes. I
love this.
Isn't this great? So as you know, we're withdrawing from Afghanistan. Bagram Airfield has now been completely given back to the Afghanis. But apparently the airmen there played a lot of Pokemon Go. And that's awesome. You can, by, doing some, location shifting, go look at the various gyms. Here's the Air Force gym at Bagram Airfield. It was hit by mortar fire later. There are still Pokemon gyms that are held by servicemen that are no longer there. Bagram once had a thriving Pokemon Go community of troops, contractors, and civilians who played the game while exercising and after work. U.S. Army Specialist Corey Olson, an electrical technician for attack helicopters who played the game with his buds from his shop in 2019, says, we weren't expecting Pokemon Go to be thriving in Bagram, and yet it was. And by the way, if you play Pokemon Go in Afghanistan, you're going to catch some monsters you can't get in the United States. Here is a Pokemon guarding a location much longer than they normally would, because nobody else is playing anymore. So you can be down to 2 health points and still just be sitting there. Nobody's taking over the gyms. I got to get my wife to go over there. She's always looking for gyms that are abandoned.
Yeah, Frank is beyond addicted to this game too.
Still?
I deeply regret introducing it to him. Yeah, I feel like such a hypocrite, Leo, because it's like, I just sat down and spent 60 hours beating Neo too, right? So then I'm complaining at Frank for playing Pokemon Go. It's complete hypocrisy.
But I'm glad Lisa plays Pokemon Go because she can't say anything about my Valheim. So, it works both. We were at a bookstore yesterday, and the clerk says, oh, I like your keychain. It's a Pokeball. And Lisa says, oh, that's no keychain. That's an actual Pokeball. I'm playing Pokemon Go as I walk around.
Yes.
The clerk thought that was super cool. One last story, then we're going to wrap it up for the 4th of July weekend, which is coming strong. I hope there's some hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill. Tim Berners-Lee, as you know, offered an NFT for his source code for the World Wide Web. It has been sold. The final bid, $5.4 million. Wow. Unidentified buyer. He sold it at Sotheby's. The opening bid was $1,000 back in June 23rd. There were a flurry of bids in the closing minutes. Profits go towards causes chosen by Sir Tim and his wife. You would get a time-stamped file of the source code, an animated video of the code being written, a letter from Sir Tim, and a digital poster of the code. I think whoever bought it probably didn't buy it to make money on it, but just to support his causes. But he should be aware there is an HTML error in the code as written. Apparently, when they made the animation, it encoded some of the HTML.
Oh, no.
Left bracket, right bracket, as ampersand LT and ampersand GT. The poster has been corrected, and apparently they fixed the animation. So I don't know. The question now is, did the NFT that you bought, does that have the error in it? Because they can't change it now. So I don't know. If it was actually, they can't change it once the NFT is created. Then that freezes it.
It's immutable.
It's immutable.
Yeah.
So it's my guess that error will be in there. But that's
Have you guys seen the website where you can sell? I don't remember the name of this, and I feel like it might have been Kevin Rose who told me it.
Oh, I know what you're going to tell me.
You can sell you can have people trade on yourself, on you.
Yes.
What is that
on your Twitter account?
Oh.
Yeah. What is that called?
I'm going to look it up because I went over
after
there.
After he told me, I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll see.
Did you do it?
Yeah, it was demoralizing. Like literally nobody cared.
Well, you didn't get on Twit to publicize it.
I don't see how I benefit at all.
You don't benefit in any way.
Okay, good.
Nobody gives you money.
Good. Then it was, in the algorithm where I assess my time spent and revenue generated. That was really, really good.
Yeah. I can't remember the company's name, and I'm looking for it. We did talk about it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Anyways.
Do you talk to Kevin
Leo,
on a regular basis?
Every now and then, yeah.
Nice.
After that last episode, I'm now sleeping on an 8-sleep bed.
Nice.
Yep.
Kevin is a wealth of information on stuff like that.
They just pushed a new update to their app, which is terrible. So if anybody at 8 Sleep is listening, please fix the jankiness. It was good before, and now it is challenging.
This is the problem with
awesome.
IoT mattresses.
Yeah.
The mattress succeeds, lives on, but the software
app fails. Yeah. I will tell you though, I sleep great. I sleep great with thermal regulation.
That's cooling is very important, isn't it?
And heating. I cook myself awake.
Oh, that's interesting. So you chill yourself to sleep and you cook yourself to wake.
I do, and I haven't woken up to an actual alarm in months. So I'm up at 5:40 every morning.
So the software, so the whole idea
awake.
of these mattresses, 8sleep.com spelled out, is it lets you control the temperature.
Wow.
In the mattress, and it has heating and cooling coils. So the software, you're saying the software, Amy, says, okay, when you want to go to sleep, and it cools the mattress, and then when you want to wake up, and it heats it up.
But it gives you a bunch of other metrics, like what your REM cycles were, what your respiration is, what your heartbeat is, makes suggestions for how to get more restful sleep. It's actually... Up until this, I'm sure they're going to fix whatever the problem was. And actually, they would be a good advertiser for this show because I'm sure everybody listening this is their kind of.
And you don't
thing.
have to buy the mattress; you can just get a Pod Pro
No.
cover.
In fact, because we have a really nice mattress.
Oh, so you didn't get the mattress; you got the cover.
No, I didn't. No, we just have a cover.
That's a lot more affordable, I'm sure.
It is, and if you've got a mattress that you really love, you don't need the whole thing.
Holy cow! I have I love my Casper. I'm not sure I'm going to spend $1,895 for a mattress pad, but I guess you need it because it's got a big heating unit and all that stuff.
My husband and I both, and he has a weighted thermal blanket, and I sleep under a 20-pound blanket.
Yeah,
I'm sleeping better than I've ever slept, and I had chronic insomnia.
What is it worth to sleep well? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Any price.
Sleep tech is under, like, if you're like in the know, then you become a super geek overnight. But
how hot do you have to get it to be to wake up?
So I have mine set to +8. I don't know what the actual temperature is, but I think it's around 115. It's not like 115 degrees.
Okay, so it's 8 above your body temperature. It's not about Making you so uncomfortable. Oh, you do get hot.
Yeah, no. I get like so uncomfortable that I don't know it might be 120. I don't know, but no. It's like you want to be up because you're.
It's too hot.
Yeah, but you wake up and you're like, I'm like awake. I'm ready. I'm well rested. Versus
tempted.
like jolting awake to an alarm clock when your body's not quite. You haven't gradually come out of your sleep.
I hate
yet.
alarm clocks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was the number one way you got rid of your insomnia, or there were other tricks?
No. Years of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
Also,
my son is going through this. He cannot sleep all night. He cannot. He lies awake a long, long time. And I feel like
also sleep
he's
with,
suffering because of it. So anything.
So Bose makes
I have those.
headphones.
Those ridiculous earbuds that make sound.
Yeah. I also use those. I sleep. I work with brown noise during the day, and I sleep with pink noise at night. So.
See, I found the trick, the way I hacked my insomnia, because Amy, I'm exactly like you. I just have fought it for years, is I found out if I get an audiobook that I really, really, really know well, like something I've read so many times, I kind of can guess what the next sentence is going to be.
Like The Expanse, yes.
Like The Expanse. This is why I've listened to it so much. What I do is I crack an Audible file. I hope I can say that on here. I own it legally, and then turn it into an MP3, and I put it on an iPod Touch. And then I get earbuds, and I listen to this novel again and again all night long.
Oh.
And the reason the hack works is because when you get busy brain at like 3 a.m, it's because you're thinking like, oh, I've got to do this tomorrow. I've got to do this tomorrow. I've got to do this tomorrow. But if it's a story you've listened to a ton, then you can kind of follow it, but you can also drift off and just start thinking about random things. And this has been the magic bullet for my insomnia.
Listening to books.
I think that's like a linguistic.
But I don't want to miss anything. So I love that idea. Listen to something you already heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like linguistic
counting,
right?
Like counting sheep, you mean?
Right. Most people who count already know how to count. You already know sequentially what's coming next. Right. So it's reducing the processing power. And when you're focused on a single thing, all of the chatter, gets quiet.
Chatter is the problem, isn't it?
Chatter is the problem.
Yeah. I find as I get older, my mind is just an empty slate now. So I just I go.
Hey, Leo, before we go, can I ask you one last question?
Yes.
So have you NFT'd? Is there an NFT?
I have never NFT'd. I am proud to say. Are you going to? Never gonna. John dug up a bunch of old recordings. He said, we could turn these into NFTs. The first twit or me exploding my ball or whatever. And it feels a little scammy to me. So I didn't. Why do you want to know? Do you want to make an NFT?
No, I was just curious. It feels a little, of the moment.
It's a little of the moment.
Yeah.
Actually, funny you should say that, because remember when Kevin was immersing himself in liquid nitrogen or something?
Yeah.
That was a big fad, right? A friend of mine just rented a space in Marin that was a former cryo facility, and they just left. They left 250 bathrobes, all the tanks, everything. Just they skipped town. It was over. The whole fad is gone. And I think Marin...
This is not a thing. People aren't freezing themselves anymore?
I think Marin is a bellwether for the future of cryo tech, cryo fitness.
Oh, my goodness.
Actually, Miss Futurist, how about this one? I'm wondering, we've been talking about this a lot in the family. Vat-grown meat. There is a Israeli company that is looking for FDA approval to start growing meat in bioreactors. Future Meat is talking with U.S. regulators to start offering its products in restaurants by the end of next year. Cellular meat.
So this is actually kind of awesome. It is not the same thing as a plant-based burger that like you would get from Impossible. So this is meat cultured from it shares genetic material, right, with the original animal. So whether that's a chicken or a salmon or a beef. And rather than it growing in a energy intensive, resource intensive, oftentimes incredibly inhumane space, instead it's
just a vat.
It's brewed in a bioreactor. And chicken nuggets have already gone on sale.
In Singapore, you can get chicken nugget.
That's right. So it is chicken meat, but it never had a heartbeat. It never came from an actual animal. And I will probably get in a lot of trouble for saying this on your show, but I'm going to do it anyways. In the book that I just wrote, there are scenario chapters in the middle to describe what does the future of synthetic biology, which is what we're talking about, look like. And I wanted to write a chapter, a scenario set in like the 2030s that had to do with how we will brew our food rather than growing it on a traditional farm. And so that chapter is called Akira Gold's Where to Eat 2032, and it's a restaurant guide. It's a restaurant guide, and it rates the best bioreactors and the best molecular whiskeys. And
do you think people will be making it in the back room, like they'll be growing their?
No, it's not that. It has to be highly sanitized. It requires robots, 5G, high-tech stuff. But
plus, if you just grew undifferentiated chicken muscle cells,
right, it's not that.
That wouldn't be any good. Meat has to have more than just the same cells.
Right. This is not gross. I know it sounds gross.
I don't even mean it would
not
be gross. It just wouldn't. We need fat. We need skin.
Yeah. So, but you can program that, right? So you could genetically engineer marbling.
You can?
It's very.
That's the question. Okay.
You can't. You will be able to, and it's plausible, Leo, that 10 years from now,
I'm
the
ready.
freshest,
Yeah.
the freshest sushi,
Yeah.
that you can get will not necessarily be flown in from Japan.
We're
but will be grown in a
overfishing. We're killing our oceans.
That's right. That's right.
Cows are terrible for the environment.
That's right.
But we want to eat meat. So this might be a great. By the way, guess who the big investors are in future meat? Tyson Foods, Archer Daniels Midland, big meat producers.
Yeah,
they see the future.
And again, this future can't come fast enough as far as I'm concerned. And I just want to say one quick thing, because people start to get squeamish and they conflate this science with GMO and genetically modified organisms, which we heard a lot about in the 90s, became highly, highly politicized.
I hope you're debunking that in the book as well.
I absolutely am. And, we have to keep our minds open here, because we're not going to make it alone on our own in the current conditions we have on this planet. And quite frankly, as exciting as it is that Bezos and Branson and Musk and everybody's lining up to go into space. I mean, how plausible is it that we're going to lift everybody off this planet onto another one and somehow escape all of our problems? We're not going to. We have to come up with much more sophisticated solutions. And synthetic biology and what you're talking about, which is meat, cellular meat grown in a bioreactor, brewed in a bioreactor, is something we ought to celebrate and be excited about.
The wonderful Amy Webb. I love The Signals Are Talking. Her latest book is The Big Nine. What's the name of this new one, and when is it going to be out? You showed us the manuscript before the show began. You're done. Are you done?
I'm done. It's called The Genesis Machine. It launches on February 15th, and we've gotten some unbelievably amazing reviews so far. I really can't wait for everybody to read it.
Well, we'll have you, let's do a special triangulation when it comes out, because I would really love to spend some time. It's all about things like mRNA and CRISPR and all of the things that we're doing. How are we about to experience an elbow, a hockey stick, a revolution in biotech?
Yes, we are. So there's trillions of dollars invested in the bioeconomy. The best way to sort of understand where we are right now is if you remember the story of Watson being on stage and making the very first, or Alexander Graham Bell being on the stage and making the first telephone call, and everybody in Chickering Hall. In New York, and people watching this exchange and thinking it was some kind of hoax, and they demanded to go behind the stage to see what was happening, to see the magical genie or whatever, And when they realized it was real, it completely blew up everybody's mental model for what it meant to talk to each other. So, and today there is no way to create a valuation for telecommunications. It is, right? It's a basic technology. It's a fundamental part of our economy. We're at the Chickering Hall stage of synthetic biology.
Wow.
Which means that you're going to start to see significant development over the next decade. Some of that is investment, but some of that is just compute. We finally have the machines that we need, and now a proven business case and a use case, because mRNA, the messenger RNA that's in Moderna and Pfizer BioNTech, was in development for 10 years for a different purpose. But that is synth-bio. So
it saved our planet, or is in the process
totally
of
did.
it.
As far as I'm concerned, like, AI is important. It's the third era of computing, but the most important technology of the 21st century is biology. So
can't wait to read the book. Always a thrill to have you on. Go ahead, Brianna.
No. The thing is, this is Frank's field, and sometimes I can't talk about stuff, but I just agree with everything you just said.
He's working in this arena.
This is
for
what my husband does for a living.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Oh my God,
like
we should get together and have a separate chat.
We should. Like when he was working on the delivery aspect of the Moderna vaccine, I couldn't talk about that, and there are other things I can't talk about today. But I agree with you. This is an interesting area of science.
Well, please thank Frank, because thanks to him, I'm going to be able to go to Hawaii in a week, and I'm going to be able to go to Mexico in the fall, and I'm going to be able to go to Singapore and have a chicken McNugget in January.
I'll be there. I'll meet you there.
Oh yeah? When are you going to be there?
I don't know. I don't have any plans, but I would go.
Oh, okay. I have to find this store wherever it is and I want to taste this meat, because I'm fascinated by this. And we're going to be in Singapore in early February.
Oh, okay.
Valentine's Day. Actually.
So I will. I'll send you some stuff.
Good. Valentine's Day in Singapore. Meet us. You too, Brianna.
I love it.
MEAT us.
Meet us. Brianna Wu is at Rebellion Pack. Give us a plug. Tell us about Rebellion Pack.
So, just to really be honest with you, Leo, I would rather be developing games right now, but I'm looking at the midterm numbers and they're scaring me.
I agree with you.
And, something I learned running for office is you really you have no idea how bad a lot of political operatives are and their levels of technological literacy. So yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, actually, from what I see. So for what Rebellion is doing, we actually it's almost like a seed round. We're working on a really exciting, we have a major donor that got involved and is letting us do a bunch of stuff with a really big data play to start using these really advanced analytics for political messaging and basically getting voters out to show up. That's the $100 million question. And I feel like if we don't seriously figure this out, I have real fears about the country. So if you want to support us, you can do that by going to helptherebellion.com. And I look forward to a future show where I could talk to you about the nitty gritty of what we're doing, because it's really awesome stuff, Leo.
And you are working on games, right? I mean, last time we talked.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got Unreal Engine 5, and it's one of those things I'm working on in the background. Just to be really frank with you, right after a race, it's a little slower for the first year. So I actually have spare time right now.
Nice.
So, I'm looking at Unreal Engine and seeing if I want to start a game studio. But then we started working on this data play at Rebellion. It is crazy stuff.
One of the things, unfortunately, that happens, especially as you get older in life, is you realize you're not going to have enough time to do everything you want to.
Yep, absolutely.
And I don't want to choose. If you write a Valheim, the next Valheim, I'll be ready, because I am done.
There we go.
Finished the game and I'm very depressed. I have to find my next game. Brianna Wu, always a pleasure. Amy Webb, when we were trying to figure out what we should do for the 3rd of July special Saturday edition of Twit, I said, look, just get Amy and Brianna on, and my job will be very easy. You two are amazing. So smart, so interesting. Thank you so much for spending this Saturday with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great to have you. We do Twit normally on a Sunday afternoon. In fact, we'll be back on our Sunday afternoon schedule starting next week, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, 21:30 UTC. You can watch us do it live. There's a live stream, audio or video, at twit.tv/live. If you're watching live, chat live at irc.twit.tv. Club Twit members are also chatting live in our Discord. That's another place you can go. We sometimes take comments and questions from our Discord stage. We have lots of great conversations all day, all night. And, of course, ad-free versions of the show, twit.tv/clubtwit. After the fact, on-demand versions of every show we do, including this one, are available in a number of places on the web at our website, twit.tv. There's a YouTube channel for each of our shows, including this one. You can watch the shows there. Not in 8K, I'm sorry to say, but not even in 4K, but 720p, okay? I mean, there's not that much to see anyway. You can also subscribe in your favorite podcast player, audio and video. Please do. That way you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. And if you would, leave us a review. 5-star review would be much appreciated. Spread the word. That helps us quite a bit. Thank you all for being here. Have a great, for those of you living in the U.S., have a great Independence Day. Enjoy your 4th of July. I think this year there's some real cause for celebration and reflection. And I hope you do both. And I'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody. Another Twit is in the can.
This is amazing.